Welcome, one and all, to the SpareTalk News Network. Your host, Rod Weaver, will be up momentarily as he gets ready for his one-on-one interactive podcast to kick things off. So, sit back and enjoy. And now, on with the show.
All right, Linwood, thanks for joining me today. We're talking about someone truly special in the world of professional bowling, a name that probably rings a bell for a lot of our listeners, LEANNE Barrette. You know, I've always been fascinated by her style, especially in her early career. There was this almost robotic quality to it, but I mean that in the absolute best way possible. It wasn't stiff, it was just so incredibly controlled, so patient. Every movement seemed meticulously planned, almost like a machine, but a beautiful, precise machine.
Rod, absolutely, and it's great to be here. You hit the nail on the head with that robotic description. It speaks to a level of consistency and repeatability that is just mind-blowing at the pro level. But what always struck me, beyond that incredible physical precision, was her mental game. I mean, we're talking about a sport where pressure is constant, where one bad shot can derail an entire tournament. LEANNE seemed to have an almost unshakable focus, a mental toughness that allowed her to block out everything else and just execute. And let's not forget the physical aspect. To maintain that robotic delivery, as you put it, through countless games, week after week, she had to be in phenomenal physical condition. That's something often overlooked in bowling, but it's crucial for longevity and peak performance.
Exactly. The mental and physical synergy was just off the charts with her. Reading up on her, it's clear she didn't just stumble into that. Remember the article mentioned Richard Altman, the owner of Boulevard Bowl, seeing her practice as a teenager? He said it didn't take long to see she wasn't an ordinary young bowler. She came from California when her dad got transferred, just practicing by herself. That quiet dedication, even back then, speaks volumes about her drive.
It really does. And to go from being an impressive stroke practicing by herself to Bowling Digest 1987 Rookie of the Year for what was then the Ladies Touring Players Association, and then two-time LPBT Player of the Year by 1991, I mean, that's an absolutely meteoric rise. 13 titles at just 24 years old? That's almost unheard of. It wasn't just raw talent, though that was clearly there. It was that combination of natural ability, the precise mechanics you mentioned, and that incredible mental resilience.
Yeah, and Altman even called her Boomer because of the way she threw the ball, saying she generated area and revolutions like few other women. He described her as the most explosive female bowler he'd ever seen. That really brings home the idea that she wasn't just about finesse. There was serious power behind that seemingly effortless delivery. It's not just about accuracy, it's about hitting the pins with the right impact to get that carry.
Absolutely. That's the part that really impresses me, the combination of power and control. It's one thing to throw it hard, it's another to consistently hit your mark with that kind of velocity and pin action. The article even touches on how Gary Dickinson, a PBA veteran, helped her streamline her approach, removing drift. That's crucial. You can have all the power in the world, but if you're drifting, you lose consistency. And consistency is king in this sport, especially at that elite level. So she was always seeking to refine, to improve, even with all her success.
It's a constant evolution, right? Never resting on your laurels. And speaking of consistency and mental game, the article mentions something fascinating from her dad, Dan Barrette. Apparently, early on, LEANNE was sort of copying the bad habits of some of the pros and showing a bad attitude. Her parents pulled her out of tournaments for 6 months until she learned to control her emotions. That kind of disciplinary move, early in a promising career, tells you so much about the foundation her family instilled in her.
That's a huge insight, Rod. It highlights that even prodigies need guidance and discipline. That bad attitude phase, and her parents' firm response, clearly shaped the unshakable, humble competitor we came to know. It shows that mental toughness wasn't just innate, it was also cultivated and refined through self-awareness and accountability. I mean, to say, I think I've learned my lesson, and then go on to achieve what she did, that's incredible. That kind of character building is invaluable, not just in sports, but in life.
And it clearly worked, because the article describes her as unassuming, taking plaudits in stride, just focusing week by week. Fran Wolf, former LPBT executive director, mentioned how LEANNE was very shy when she first turned pro, but just sort of grew up on tour. She learned to open up, to be personable. That transformation from shy to publicly engaging, while maintaining that inner competitiveness, is just a testament to her overall growth.
Absolutely. It's not just about bowling well, it's about being an ambassador for the sport. And for LEANNE, her genuine kindness and approachability, even with all her success, made her a true role model. Richard Altman's daughter, Lori Leonard, looked up to her, wanted to go on tour because of her. And Bill Supper from Ebonite, who signed her to that endorsement deal, said she was tremendous for Ebonite because of the way she presents herself in public. It wasn't just the wins, it was her. She wasn't standoffish or snobbish. That's a rare quality in anyone, let alone a young star.
Yeah, and that leads us to a really interesting point that the article brings up, and one that I've always found a bit, well, misguided, frankly. The question of whether Leanne Barrett could compete on the men's tour. Now, for me, my rebuttal to any skepticism is, why couldn't she? Isn't the objective of bowling to post a high score against the pins? It's not about physically engaging in some kind of brawl with your opponent, right? It's you against the lane, you against the pins, and ultimately you against yourself.
Oh, I agree completely, Rod. It's a pure test of skill, precision, and consistency. There isn't that much difference in the strength needed to succeed when accuracy and precision are so much more important than raw power. Yes, some men might generate a little more ball speed, but Leanne was already described as explosive and could throw a 16-pound ball consistently. The subtle nuances of lane play, reading oil patterns, making adjustments, those are gender-neutral skills. If you can strike consistently and convert your spares under pressure, your gender becomes irrelevant.
Right? It's not like she's going to be out-muscled in a tackle. It's a technical sport, and frankly, I think the idea of men fearing losing to women in bowling is one of those fallacies of the uninformed viewer. It's an outdated notion rooted in some weird insecurity, not in the reality of the game. If anything, having someone like Leanne compete would only elevate the sport, creating more interest and proving that excellence knows no gender.
You're absolutely right, and the article backs that up too. Fred Borden, head coach of Team USA, said she'd be in the thick of things on an awful lot of conditions and could definitely make the top 24 on the men's tour. That's a huge compliment from someone who knows the game inside and out. He even suggested she had the ability to open up lanes on certain conditions, which is a high-level skill, not just about brute force.
Yeah, and I appreciate Leanne's modesty in her own response, saying she takes it as a compliment, but that the men's tour is so much tougher. That's her humility shining through. But even if the competition is tougher, it doesn't mean she couldn't rise to that challenge. Look at what she did on the women's tour. She was pushing the other women to get better, raising the bar, leading to higher scores across the board. Jackie Sellers, another pro, noted that the scores had gone up, and it wasn't just conditions, but everybody is working hard, and it's getting very competitive out here. It could be that Leanne has pushed people to do a lot better.
That's the mark of a true superstar, isn't it? Someone who not only excels individually, but also inspires and elevates the entire field. Her presence made everyone else step up their game, which is ultimately good for the sport as a whole, and it speaks to the fact that top-tier talent, regardless of gender, can adapt and compete. The fundamentals of precision, control, and mental fortitude are universal, and she had them in spades.
Definitely. It always comes back to those core principles. And thinking about the bigger picture, her dad, Dan, had a valid complaint in the article too. He wondered why women's bowling didn't get its due in the publicity department, despite having good TV ratings. He even saw volleyball on network TV, and he wasn't knocking it, but he felt something was wrong when women's bowling didn't get that same exposure. That's a frustration many female athletes and their supporters have faced across different sports.
It's a totally legitimate point, Rod, especially when you have a talent like Leanne, who is not only an incredible athlete, but also, as we've discussed, a fantastic role model and ambassador. She had the whole package. You'd think that would translate into more mainstream visibility and financial support. Don Hillman, the owner of Cloverleaf Lanes where she grew up, mentioned that there wasn't enough money on the women's tour to make her independently wealthy, despite her incredible talent. That's a sobering thought when you consider her achievements.
Yeah, it really highlights the disparity that existed, and perhaps still does in some areas, between men's and women's professional sports. Here's a woman who dominated her field, setting records at a young age, inspiring others, and being a genuinely good person, yet the financial rewards and public recognition weren't always commensurate with her talent and impact. It's a shame, honestly.
It truly is. But despite those systemic challenges, Leanne still shone. She stuck with it, maintained her integrity, and continued to excel. And her approach to life seemed just as grounded as her approach to bowling. Remember the article mentioned her playing shortstop for her high school softball team. They called her Pokey because she wasn't real fast afoot, and her dad even mused that might have had something to do with her methodical bowling approach. It gives you a great sense of her personality, that she wasn't just a one-dimensional bowler.
That's a fantastic detail. Pokey Leanne. It brings a smile to your face, and it ties back to that controlled and patient delivery I noticed. Maybe that slightly slower, more methodical approach on the lanes wasn't just physical, it was an extension of her entire persona, that calm, deliberate focus. Even thinking about her future, she talked about wanting to raise a family and remain in the bowling industry. It wasn't just about the immediate glory, it was about a long-term connection to the sport and a balanced life.
Exactly. She had that long-term vision and commitment. Her success wasn't fleeting, it was built on a solid foundation of hard work, discipline, and a genuine love for the game. And that's why even today, when we look back at the history of women's professional bowling, Leanne Barrette's name stands out so prominently. She wasn't just a great bowler, she was a phenomenal athlete, a superb role model, and a true testament to what dedication and character can achieve.
Couldn't agree more, Linwood. She really was, and still is, an inspiration. For anyone out there, whether you're a bowler or not, Leanne Barrette's story is a masterclass in controlled excellence, mental fortitude, and just being a genuinely good human being in the spotlight. It's a reminder that true champions are often forged through a combination of talent, relentless practice, and unwavering character. Thanks so much for breaking down her incredible career with me today.
My pleasure, Rod. It's always a privilege to talk about legends like Leanne. Her impact on the sport and on countless aspiring bowlers, both male and female, is undeniable. She truly paved the way and set a standard that continues to inspire. What a career and what a person. Thanks for having me.
From the year 1977 in the Grand Rapids Press. Roth tops $100,000. Mark Roth of Staten Island, New York, is the second professional bowler in history to win more than $100,000 during a single year. The strong-armed 26-year-old surpassed the mark last Saturday in snow-stricken Detroit, when he finished second in the $100,000 AMF Grand Prix of Bowling at Thunderbowl, and earned $7,000. His payday at Allen Park in suburban Detroit upped his total for the year to $105,583, not far off the record $110,833 that Earl Anthony won in 1976. It was Tommy Hudson of Akron who chased Roth right down to the wire, after leading the Professional Bowlers Association money race earlier this summer. Hudson was third at Detroit and earned $5,000. He ended the year with $89,393. He and Roth are co-favorites in the race for Bowler of the Year honors. Anthony had his third fine year in a row, finishing in third place with $72,690, after placing 14th in the Grand Prix to win $1,400. The Grand Prix tournament ended the 1977 campaign for the pros. They returned to action January 3rd through 7th at Los Angeles with the $100,000 Light Classic at Gable House in suburban Torrance. From the Morning Press in the year 1959. Bowling alley looters caught. Two men chopped a hole in the roof of an outlying bowling alley Thursday and dropped 12 feet to the floor. Two state troopers, their pistols drawn, were waiting for them. The Quaker Lanes bowling alley, along Route 309, a half-mile north of here, has been robbed 4 times in recent months, the loot amounting to over $500 and taken chiefly from vending and pinball machines. State police, therefore, have been keeping nightly vigil in the office of the bowling alley. The men captured Thursday were named as Richard Cantillon, 28, a painter and roofer from St. Attendant, and Edward Martella, a painter and roofer from St. David's, a Philadelphia suburb. Martella is free on $5,000 bail on a burglary charge in Delaware County. State police said the two admitted a bowling alley robbery in Blackwood, New Jersey, and avowedly planned another break-in Thursday at a bowling alley in Horsham, Montgomery County. From the year 1988 in the Democrat and Chronicle. Strong hook, stronger will. 11-year-old tackles bowling and other sports despite being slowed down by spina bifida. By Joe Robbins. Chris Decker describes himself as an average 11-year-old. But there's nothing average about the effort he expends reaching the foul line and releasing his 16-pound bowling ball in the Saturday Youth League at Maiden Lanes. A 5th grader at Kirk Road School in Greece, Chris holds his bowling ball in his left hand, leans forward to maintain balance, and drags his legs along to the foul line. Once there, he balances and lets loose a wicked hook shot. Born with spina bifida, he must walk with crutches because he has little feeling in his legs. His spine isn't connected to his hips because his tailbone failed to form at birth. He's basically evolved his own way of balancing by leaning forward on his legs, his mother Linda said. He does the same thing when he swings a baseball bat. Chris compensates for the limited use of his lower body with a solid upper torso and arms. He likes showing off his strength. "Feel my muscle," he said, proudly flexing his right bicep and showing off his developed chest. What is spina bifida? Spina bifida is the single most common crippler of children. It is a serious birth defect, probably the most severe that can afflict a newborn child and be compatible with survival. In spina bifida, one or more of the vertebrae often do not close completely, leaving an opening in the spine through which the spinal cord protrudes. Surgery is performed shortly after birth to close the opening, which may occur at various points on the spine. Chris participates in all kinds of physical activities besides bowling. Golf. His father, Terry Decker, got him a set of cut-down clubs. Swimming, Little League baseball, gymnastics, bike riding, roller skating, and skateboarding, to name a few. "The more he does, the stronger he gets," said his mother. And he definitely can bowl. In fact, you can forget he's handicapped when you watch his ball roll down the lane. With an 86 average, Decker recently teamed with Professional Bowlers Association member Jimmy Dorer in the Coca-Cola Wrighton Adult Youth Tournament qualifier at Maiden. Decker rolled games of 105, 87, and 143 for a 335 total. Dorer did his part as well, with a 732 series on games of 279, 215, and 238. Their 1295 total, including 228 pins for handicap, was the best in the 11 and under division at Maiden. They received trophies and advanced to the next round 2 weeks ago at Terrace Garden Lanes. They failed to qualify for the television finals though, totaling 1135. Decker did well again with a 295 series with games of 114, 100, and 91. Dorer slumped to a 613 on games of 263, 180, and 170. Still, it was quite an experience for both. Dorer, who leads all city bowlers with a 232 average, was called in as a sub for Decker's father, Terry, the golf pro at Durand Eastman. He had business in Hawaii that week and couldn't bowl with his son. "We were just pumped up," Dorer said about bowling with his young partner. "I wanted to do it for him. He loves bowling. He's loved it ever since he learned to pick up the ball." But Dorer did have some pre-tournament advice for him. "I said, I don't want to see you hook the ball. Don't try to hook it too much. You hit your average and I'll do the rest." Decker did, and so did Dorer. The spina bifida has not interfered with Chris's interests in sports, according to his mother. On the Little League field he hits the ball, then grabs his crutches to make his way around the bases. "This kid is amazing," Dorer said, noting all the sports he participates in, especially bowling. "I re-drilled one of his father's 16-pound balls for him a few years ago," Dorer said. "Most youngsters who weigh 65 pounds don't use a ball that heavy. The 14-pound balls are too light. They hook too much," Decker said. Although he noted, "I like throwing a hook. He has so much determination, it's unbelievable," Dorer said. His father, Terry, got his son involved in bowling initially. A former night manager at Maiden Lanes and former partner at West Ridge Lanes, Terry's been involved in bowling a long time. He usually bowls in a couple of leagues and averages in the 190s. "Bowling's always been number one," Chris's father said. "It's always been his best sport. He's always been competitive against the other kids." This past summer his son also took up track and field while competing in the New York State Special Olympics at Brockport State. Chris won the shot put, discus, javelin, and 100-meter dash events. And, although he practiced with the discus and shot put at home, he had never seen a javelin until the day of the Olympics. Although he must use crutches to get around when he's not playing one of his sports, Chris said he wants to be a pro golfer or pro bowler when he's an adult. But after a recent visit to an air show, his mother said, now he wants to be a pilot. He asks no favors. He could have earned his Boy Scout merit badge for hiking without covering the entire 5-mile distance. But when the time came, he walked it. His mother has only one complaint about his interest in bowling. He follows a pro with a temperamental style quite the opposite of his own polite demeanor. His favorite player is Marshall Hallman, she said. From the year 1977 in the Hartford Courant. Keesick at home on duckpin or 10-pin lanes. Ed Keesick of Hartford has been bowling duckpins since 1950 in at least 3 leagues each week. Not only that, but he also bowls 10-pins each Friday night at South Windsor 10-pin Bowl. If that amount of bowling doesn't make Keesick one of the state's busiest, he'll do, until a busier bowler makes himself known. In the 1976 and 77 duckpin season, Ed rolled 613 games and finished with a 131 average. In his spare time, Keesick was president and publicity man for the Men's Hartford County League at Holiday Lanes for 20 years before resigning in 1976. He also has been, and is, the publicity man for 16 years in the Connecticut Men's Major Duckpin League at the Newington T-Bowl. He still is the County Loop's publicist. About bowling, Ed says, conditions are the same for everyone. You have to adapt and you still have to beat the other fellow. Today there is sterner competition. It's tougher to win now than it was 20 years ago. The bowlers have improved. Ed boasts of never missing a duckpin tournament in 22 years, a remarkable record, and has been competing in tourneys for 26 years. Back in 1959, when he was rated a Class B duckpinner, Keesick won the Strong Eastern Classic at Willimantic's Lucky Strike Lanes, one of the United States' better events. Keesick has won 11 tournaments but never a Class B tourney, and he likes to feel that his win in the Eastern encouraged the lower-class bowlers. Another eventful victory was in the popular Harry Peters Open 5 years ago. In 10 pins, Ed competed in the Peterson Classic in Chicago, and in 1959, was high average man in the Greater Hartford 10 pins, with 186. Keesick's high duckpin single was 213 at North Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and his high series is a 531, rolled at Glastonbury Bowl. Right now, Ed's highest average is 139 in one of his duckpin leagues, but his 10-pin average is the lowest of his career, 169. But that's going to improve, Keesick said confidently. Right now, Ed holds the world duckpin record for all marked games, with 11. The closest to that figure is 8. Ed commented further on bowling, I like the competition, the steady challenge. It's a great game. I've made many friends over the years. Oddly enough, Keesick's greatest thrill in bowling was not winning a tournament, but coming through for his team in a league match. In the 10th box of our first game, I had to hit the 5-7 for a spare and get a 7 on the spare, and I did it. In the second game, I had to knock down the 5-10 pins for a spare to tie the game, and again I was lucky and got it, he exclaimed. Then in the third game in the 10th frame, I left the 4-7-9-10 on the first ball and picked them off for another spare. We won 3 games and I felt great. Keesick's philosophy on bowling: you have to have the eye of an eagle, the heart of a lion, and the rear of an elephant. Speaking for yourself, Ed? From the year 1954 in the Marion Star. Station window broken by hurled bowling pin. A plate glass window valued at $169 was broken at a new filling station at the corner of routes 95 and 529, the sheriff's office reported today. The window was smashed with a bowling pin, which had been hurled through the glass. The damage was reported by John Matthews, manager of the local Gulf refining bulk plant. Matthews called deputies at 3:45 Friday afternoon and told them he had noticed the damage while driving past the station. The station, a Gulf outlet, is still under construction and had not been opened for business. The window, which was shattered, measured 95¼ by 122½ inches. The bowling pin, which was found tossed through it, had a large chip off it, and bowling alley proprietors told deputies it had evidently been discarded because of the chip. From the Chronicle Tribune in the year 1988. New balls adjust for long oil. Bowling ball technology keeps moving forward. The balls can't roll themselves yet, but the right one can do almost the next best thing. Urethane balls have become commonplace, and others are made to handle specific lane conditions. The newest innovations are balls with multiple weight blocks and others with the weight in different placements. These balls reached the market within the past 30 to 60 days. The new balls are the Axe from JPS, the Equalizer from Track Incorporated, and the Vector 1 and Vector 2 from Columbia. All three are available at Crest Lane's Pro Shop, and the Vectors are available at Barney's Pro Shop at Plaza Bowl. Weight blocks normally are located in the center of a bowling ball, under the trademark. The weight block can be manipulated in the ball drilling process to give the ball the proper balance for the bowler's needs. Normally, if a bowler wants more side weight, a ball can be drilled either off-center or have an extra hole added for balance. But the new balls already take varying weight shifts under consideration and make such drilling procedures unnecessary. The Axe has 3 weight blocks while the Equalizer has 2. The Vectors have just 1 weight, but the Vector 1 weight is located farther down than conventional balls and the Vector 2 weight is higher than normal. Dave Jones Jr., Crest Lane's Pro Shop manager, says the balls were designed to combat long oil lane dressing patterns. This condition is normally found on the professional bowlers tour and was made with them in mind. Centers have the option of applying oil at any distance along the lane, a long oil pattern. Or they can limit it to 24 feet, a short oil pattern. But Crest and Plaza both use the long oil dressing. Lockridge Lanes and Crown Lanes both use short oil dressing. It's engineering at its finest, Jones said of the new balls. They are playing games with the inside of the bowling ball and rethinking the bowling ball. Jones says bowling ball engineers based their ideas on how a bowler rolls the ball, then applied that information to design a ball with longer roll and more hitting power. It can be engineered for a longer slide and with a sharper curve on the end, he added. It can also start curving early, almost as soon as you let go of it in some cases. This enables a player more flexibility to where he can play on the lanes. Dick Barney, manager of Barney's Pro Shop, says elaborate ball drilling isn't needed for the balls. You just look at the ball track, see if it's the Vector 1 or 2, and drill it, he said. Jones says a knowledgeable bowler can see his average improve 10 to 20 pins within 30 days with one of these balls. That is a little scary to me, he added. Is it your ability or is it the ball? It kind of crosses over on an ethical question. The bottom line is a person still has to roll it, but the equipment can give you greater ability. Barney said he had struggled with his game this season and drilled a Vector for himself. His first 2 series with the new ball were 600 and 664. I am sold on the Vectors, Barney said. Since Plaza went back to the long oil, I couldn't get a ball to roll for me. With the Vector, I can trust it more and it will come back to the pocket. The new balls already are making an impact on the PBA Tour. In the latest Bowlers magazine, pro bowler Brian Voss says a tour player is at a 10-pin disadvantage without one of these balls. But Jones cautions bowlers about getting one of these new Wonder Balls. These balls match up to only one condition. They are not all-around balls, he said. They are usually suited to medium oily to oily lanes. Some can handle the shorter stuff. From the Clarion Ledger in the year 1960. Determining right weight bowling ball is important. By Pat McBride, WIBC All Events record holder. There is no hard and fast rule to determine exactly the correct weight bowling ball for any one individual. I've seen girls under 100 pounds roll the maximum weight 16-pound ball smoothly and accurately down the lane. I've also watched big girls who look able to throw a piano 60 feet, have a hard time managing a 12 or 13-pound ball. Your own physical makeup should determine the weight of your bowling ball. However, a good rule of thumb to use is this: start with a 10-pound ball. Almost any girl should be able to roll it easily. Assume your usual stance with the weight of the ball in your left hand, which is directly under the ball, and the fingers of your right hand in the ball holes. Now take your right hand away from the ball. If you are able to support the ball without any difficulty with your left hand only, go on up to the 12-pound ball. Keep going until you reach the weight that you cannot support. Then drop back to the last one that felt comfortable. That's the one for you. After you have smoothed out your approach, you'll find that the ball will seem to feel lighter. Since a heavier ball is more devastating when it crashes into the pins, try a slightly heavier ball. Don't fool with all of the trick grips that you see, especially when you're just beginning to bowl, particularly the gals. Stay with the conventional grip where the thumb is buried in its hold and the fingers are placed in their respective holes fully up to the second joints. Using this type of grip, you'll get the proper finger lift and still have full control of the ball. Leave the half and full fingertip grips for the pros. It takes years of experience and savvy to be able to use them effectively. From the Richmond Times-Dispatch in the year 1988. Duckpin Rankings. 2 Virginians, Richmonder Buddy Kramer and Kathy Boswell of Portsmouth, gained the National Duckpin Bowling Congress 1987 and 88 rankings published in the winter edition of the Duckpin News. For many years, the top bowlers in Richmond have been regulars on the national list. Kramer was number 6 in the men's top 20 with a 150.693 average. Boswell was number 2 on the women's list with 144.097. Swede Lavers repeated as the top male bowler with 153.734 and claimed his 4th number 1 ranking. Lavers, 53, also was number 1 in 1981 and 82 and 1983 and 84 on the Duckpin Professional Bowlers Association Tour. Lavers won 2 titles and repeated as Bowler of the Year. Diane Wirt of Laurel, Maryland, led the women's rankings for the 3rd straight season, averaging 145.660, a drop of slightly more than 2 pins from her 1986 and 87 mark. As usual, Maryland bowlers dominated the rankings, taking 31 of 40 spots. From the St. John's Times-Globe in the year 1995. Competitive candlepin bowlers covet house records. To the average bowler, it means nothing. However, for those serious enough to hit the alleys 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week, having your name splashed on a board at the hometown lanes compares to Hollywood's Walk of Fame. It's like a candlepin wall of fame, and most bowling establishments in New Brunswick have one. If they don't, they should. To be at the top of the leaderboard, to own a house record for either the single or triple, is considered a prized possession. Just ask Dave Whalen of St. John, a man in his early 40s who carries a 118 average. You always like to be the best you can be, he says. You have it in the back of your mind that you would like to have it. Whalen had his name posted on the wall at the St. John Bowlerama West 2 years ago when he fired a 454 triple. At the time, he thought it was a house record, but he wasn't sure. I sort of half knew, he admits. I knew the record wasn't all that high. On January 16 of 1993, Paul Cormier produced Bowlerama West's high single with an amazing 208. Some provincial bowling facilities aren't quite sure what their house records are. Take Fairview Lanes in St. John, for instance. Shirley Donovan says Jack Jackson and Jack Given share the high triple of 414. As for the high single, she thinks her own 174, which she bowled this year, may be the record, but she's not certain. I don't know why the scores are so low, she explains. It must be the older equipment and older pins. It's an older building, about 35 years old. Most lanes have impressive house records. Bowlmore Lanes in St. John has a high triple of 484, which Mac Bonnell produced, and a high single of 201 that Jeff McPhee rolled. Ron Vautour owns the high triple at St. John Bolorama Lanes on Union Street, firing a .462 in 1993. The high single of 194, which Bud Jenkins tossed, has been standing for an estimated 15 years. Fun Die Lanes, the oldest existing bowling facility in St. John, having opened in 1948, has a record triple of 451, which Francis Hughes chucked, and a 195 single that is shared by Terry McPhee and Dave Spate. The 15-year-old Beehive Lanes in Grand Bay sports a .452 high triple recorded by Giles Roussel and a .178 high single by Tim McQuaid. The only other candlepin bowling center in the St. John area is the Kennebecasis Valley Lanes in Quispamsis. Jim Ferris owns that house record high triple with a .471, while Gary Bettle fired the high single with a .194. Unofficially, the highest house records in the province have been recorded at the Hanwell Bowling Center in Fredericton. They were registered last month at the World Men's Candlepin Bowling Championship. The surprise, however, is that they were posted by New Brunswick bowlers, not Americans. Bob Douthright of Moncton owns the high triple with an outstanding .499, while Brian Bernatchez, who does his bowling out of Moncton, blazed the lanes with a .214 high single. Two other major bowling centers in New Brunswick, Moncton Fair Lanes and Sussex Corner Bowl, own lofty house records. Steve Wilson of Moncton bowled the Fair Lanes high triple with a .468, while Russ Mitten of Sussex tossed the Fair Lanes high single with a .203. Randy Johnston fired the Sussex Corner Bowl high triple of .470 in an April 1994 tournament, while the high single of .198 was produced by Sussex native Harold Linden.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks again for stopping by and tuning in to our revised format of the This Day in Bowling History podcast. As usual, if you'd like to be notified of future videos when they become available and are published, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of the videos or the YouTube screen. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on the upcoming Monday, and hopefully we'll have a few more enhancements to the podcast. So take care.